Expression debugging techniques. Terraform often reports the final argument that failed, not the intermediate value that caused the failure. A long nested expression hides the exact point where the data shape stopped matching your assumption. This causes debugging to stall because the resource block becomes both the execution site and the inspection site. By moving the expression into separate locals, we create visible checkpoints before Terraform ever reaches the AWS API. This changes the plan from a single opaque failure into a sequence of inspectable values. The result is faster fault isolation and fewer false assumptions about the input structure. A dense expression mixes lookup, selection, string construction, and resource assignment into one line. Each of these operations can fail for a different reason. A missing key breaks the map lookup. A wrong type breaks string construction. A null value breaks an argument that requires a concrete string. By assigning each step to its own local, we force Terraform to evaluate the chain as separated named values. This makes the plan readable because each local becomes a checkpoint in the value path. The resource block then consumes a finished value instead of hiding unfinished logic inside an argument. Terraform can show planned values for locals and outputs before any AWS call is made. That means outputs can act as temporary inspection windows during debugging. If select environment is wrong, the failure begins at input selection. If selected config is wrong, the failure begins at the lookup boundary. If parameter name is wrong, the failure begins at string assembly. This narrows the fault domain before the resource block is involved. It also prevents misreading an AWS resource error as a provider issue when the actual problem was expression logic in the configuration. Most expression failures happen where one value is assumed to exist inside another structure. That is usually a map key, object attribute, or list element boundary. By testing that boundary before resource creation, we stop invalid assumptions from flowing deeper into the plan. This converts a vague expression crash into a deliberate validation failure with a specific cause. The result is better debugging because Terraform fails at the assumption point, not several layers later inside a resource argument. On a submarine, the most dangerous fault is not the one that alarms early. The dangerous fault is the one that passes through two compartments before anyone realizes the first seal failed. A bad Terraform lookup behaves the same way. If you do not stop it at the boundary, you end up debugging downstream symptoms instead of the first broken assumption. Expression debugging is not about adding more syntax. It is about relocating failure to the earliest inspectable point. When logic stays buried inside a resource argument, the plan shows only the final crash site. When logic is staged in locals and checked at the lookup boundary, Terraform reveals where the data path first became invalid. That changes debugging from guesswork into ordered inspection. It also protects Terraform state from partial mental models because the resource only receives values that already survived inspection.